And the email came, and all it said was "ugh" with a link.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
This is Jennifer Baumgartner from Perkins County Health Services in Grant, Nebraska, and you're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast.
Thank you for that intro. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs and Security First IT. And joining me is Donna Grindle of Cardin. Good morning, Donna.
Good morning, Mr. Sims. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. Today, we're going to get into your breaches. Actually, somebody else's breaches, but we're going to...
Stay out of my breaches.
Yeah, I know. So, if you know anything about me, I'd love to wordplay on that.
Yeah.
But we are going to talk about a couple of third-party breaches that should get your attention. We always actively look for this information, and when we do find it, we want to dissect it and figure out what happened and how it happened. And we're also going to introduce you to probably the absolute saddest breach notification letter ever sent.
Yeah, not like sad and negative, but you feel so bad for them. Sad.
Yeah. So they could probably make a movie out of it. It's pretty bad. But we'll get into all that. Before we do, let's figure out where we are going to be coming up.
Well, this show comes out on the last day of the March boot camp.
All right. So we had a great time in the boot camp.
Yeah, we did. We did. And we're really, it's going to be a really diverse group. I'm looking forward to seeing it because, we've got developers and compliance officers and administrators and tech companies. It's really, the more diverse the group, you would think it was harder, but it's actually much better conversation as far as I'm concerned. I don't know about you.
Oh, absolutely. Because you have the people that are from the medical practices, they're in there and they're talking about how they see things. And then, when the IT people are there, they're talking about how they see things. And then during the breaks, it's funny, you watch them, the first day you tend to see everybody in their own little group, all the IT people kind of gather together and all that. But by day two, they're kind of mingling. It's, you're starting to see people go, well, now I understand why you feel this way and why you asked me about these things. And, everything starts kind of making a lot more sense about how everybody sees things from a different angle.
And that's, a huge part of what we're trying to do is it takes us all. It takes a village to protect your data.
Yeah. These days it takes more than that.
I know, right? So, yes, but that is an exciting thing, and I'm looking forward to it. I don't know about you, David.
So you missed out on the March one, but May is coming up.
Yeah, and you got early bird pricing for the May 15th, 16th, 17th event is open until April 15th. So
and we now have CEUs.
That's right. We have been pre-approved by the Compliance Certification Board under the Healthcare Compliance Association for CEUs. The information will be on the website, and hopefully that'll be helpful to even those that don't get, they want CEUs from other organizations. Having somebody else go through and approve it always helps. So, and we only got so much time and so many people.
And then you have April 7 through 10 in Savannah.
Yes, darling. Savannah.
I want to go down there for that. Not even necessarily for the conference. I just want to go to Savannah.
I know. Savannah's awesome. I love going there. And so the 1st of April we'll be in Savannah to do the cybersecurity workshop for the Society of OMS Administrators, SOMSA. And then at the end of April, beginning of May, I'm going to be in Hilton Head for the Georgia MGMA conference. We're exhibiting and doing some meetings there. And so I'm going to get a lot of coastal influence there. So it's exciting to be part of that group, the SOMSA group. I'm really looking forward to it. I've made a really cool workshop, I think, that's going to be fun and interesting.
Yeah.
It's all about getting your cyber zen.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, cyber zen. That's what we're going to get. Cyber zen.
I don't think anybody who attended the workshop you did a few years ago with the chicken hat or head or whatever you want to call it, the chicken mask.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the Azalea Health Conference where they had me come in, and I was going to be at the end of the day, and everybody's worried about ICD-10, and I did Don't Let a Chicken Cause a Data Breach.
Yeah.
W6399.99 packed by a chicken. But, you know, I was with those guys. They just had their User Connect conference, and they... You know, it's like everybody that I was meeting that I didn't already know, they'd be like, "She's the chicken head lady."
That's funny. It defined you.
Chicken head. But, you know, I'll take it. Whatever works. I want to be memorable for something. I'd rather it be wearing a chicken head than, you know, some of the other options people like.
Yeah. Ain't no truth. But speaking of being memorable, let's dive into a couple of these third-party breach stories and kind of see where the angles are with this and why should our listeners even be concerned about third-party breaches.
Well, you know, we just had our conversation with John Miller in the last episode, which, I'm still thrilled with all the things, and I could have talked to him for another hour. I don't know about you.
Oh, absolutely.
It was a great conversation.
I had more questions, but...
I know, and I had given him, you know, the gist of it, but he was just nailing everything we wanted to talk about. Boom, boom, boom. Just keep going, John. You're good. You're good.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, he really pushed the concept of third parties and the concerns that those are creating for everybody. And ironically, we also got some notifications. We learned about a couple of different things involving third parties. And believe it or not, this has no specific HIPAA implications. This is data breaches that deal with the whole CPA world, but that can cross over. And these had such very specific information in them. I felt like it was really, really important for us to share it and review this, because what if this is your third party? How would you react? And we know from enough, if you go back to our top 10 wrong HIPAA statements, there are plenty of people out there saying it doesn't apply to me. I don't have to do these things, blah, blah, blah.
Right. Yeah. And it's awful. But the first one, you know, I kind of opened talking about the sad third party breach letter. So we're going to start with that one. That way everybody can kind of cry and get it over with.
I felt so bad.
Yeah, but this one, you know, you found this one on databreaches.net, which is a good repository of news about these things. And the breach notification letter. Now, you and I both have seen dozens, if not hundreds, of these things, and it typically starts out with, "We greatly value your privacy and security, and therefore we do all these wonderful things, but somehow something happened." You know, and it's, you know, they're kind of vague, but they're also very form letter-ish.
Everywhere, you know, there's going to be the phrase, "We take your privacy and security seriously."
Yeah. But you don't get that feeling that they really care or that they're embarrassed that something happened. It's more like, crap. You know, I got caught with my pants down. Sorry. I'm notifying you because I have to, not because I want to.
That's right. If I didn't have to do this, you wouldn't be learning about it at all.
Right. And that's kind of the feeling I get just reading the other breach letters, but not this one.
Yeah. And by the way, this was required because it's in California. You have to notify in California, even if you're, you know, not in healthcare. So, wow is all I can say. It's just wow. So, as you said, you know, it's really, you can feel this guy's pain because he cares about his clients. And we can only hope that some of these small practices will learn from this mistake and care about your patients the same way this guy cares about his clients. So this is a small tax firm. And, you know, this is all public information, so it's not like we're giving away anything serious. They had to report it to the state attorney general in California that they had a breach in their office. It's Martin, Hutchinson, and Homan CPAs. It's not a huge firm. They're not in some, we're not talking downtown LA in a high rise. It's just a small firm in Eureka, California, which is not a big town. And just nice little building. You can look them up on the internet. You look at the building, you're like, oh. So, and it made me think about, this is the kind of small business that small businesses relate to.
Right.
It's a small business like John Wayne's a man's man,
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing. But so the notification letter, and since you, I was trying to figure out how to read it, but even you, David, the cynic and cynic in chief here, he felt bad right away. So I think that because the first sentence I wanted to go, oh.
Well, when I started reading it, the first thing I thought was, what's going on? Because it doesn't start like a breach notification letter. It starts like a, somebody has passed away letter.
I know. Oh, no. What happened is my response. Now, I do want to point out right here, this is a tax accountant. So this is February, and it's a tax accountant. So if you have any friends that are tax accountants, you don't see them February, March until they have slept past the end of April. Because after April 16th, they're like, they shut down.
Yeah. Well, that's when they have to deal with the extensions that they put in.
I know, right? But so imagine this is the busiest time of year ever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this happens. So February 19th, this is the letter. And it just even starts sad. So you can go with it, David, because I think you'll give it with your cynicism, yet empathy, you'll give it a proper read.
All right. So we'll kind of go through and break some of it down as we go. But it starts out February 19, 2019. My dear tax clients, it is with deepest regret that I send this letter to you in order to inform you of a recent event in our firm. Okay, so right there, I'm like, what?
What happened?
I know. It's like you bated breath. I'm waiting. But yeah, I'm honestly expecting there to be, something serious. I'm not even thinking data breach. I'm thinking like somebody died or, got some serious illness or something. Yeah. So it goes on to read, on Friday, February 15th, 2019, while trying to resolve an email failure with our email host, Suddenlink, I was directed to a website that gave a phone number to call for immediate assistance. When I called this number, the technician stated he could certainly help. He requested access to my computer to understand the issue with the email. And at this point, I'm already like, oh, Lord, I know where this is going.
Yeah, we know where we're going. Yeah.
And it continues on. After I installed the software necessary to give him remote access to my computer, he pulled up some IP addresses on my computer screen and stated that this was the reason for the email failure. He then insisted that in order to fix the problem and prevent viruses from attacking, I would need to allow him to install a program on our office network server. I told him no, and that our local computer technician would be contacted to deal with this. At that point, he stated that only a Microsoft tech, such as himself, would be able to do this. This was a red flag, as I thought I was dealing with Suddenlink. At that point, I quickly disconnected my computer from the internet. Good job.
Yep.
And from our office network. Again, very good job. I then uninstalled the remote access software I had just allowed him to install and turned the computer off. Good job. This entire interaction lasted less than 8 minutes. All right.
Yeah. So he was actively trying to solve a problem.
Right.
And I don't know whether he says he thought he was talking to Suddenlink. So maybe Suddenlink was there when he searched for Suddenlink. You know how when you Google search and he probably said Suddenlink, blah, 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 blah. And it looked like it was going to Suddenlink.
Mm-hmm. And you click the probably paid ad instead of the actual thing.
That or Suddenlink's been hacked, which is, we'll talk about that in just a minute.
We will.
your own website can create problems for you just because the website that does nothing but provide information provides a link like this one.
Yeah. So there's a couple things, and there's more to the letter, and we'll get to that. But there's a couple things in this part that I want to bring out just from an IT perspective.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I don't know what kind of IT he had. He does mention that he has an IT guy. I don't know if it's a managed services type guy, or I know a guy, or whatever. But it is mostly prudent to have your IT person do IT things. So, I mean, he's talking about trying to resolve an email failure with the email host. Dude, this is not your job. Okay. Right. You're a CPA. I'm not fussing at you, but I am.
Yeah.
Do the CPA work. Let somebody else in IT handle this email failure. Even if they can't fix it, they can be the go-between between your business and the Suddenlink company. And then this could have been something that could have been, avoided because the IT guy hopefully would have seen all these red flags and then not given somebody remote access, and none of this would have happened.
Or may have known the answer and not even found what got you connected to them in the first place. And we all know that tech people don't like to call anybody.
That can sometimes be the case. But I've also, and I've had even my own clients, well, I didn't want to call you or bother you, or I didn't want to bother the technicians with this, or I didn't want to put a ticket in because all I had to do was just call it. Dude, bother me. Yeah. Bother my techs. Call. I would much rather use, even if you wasted my time, which you don't, but even if you wasted my time, it is a lot easier to deal with that than to deal with what's happening now because of this. So rule number one, even though this is nothing, you thinking, just making a phone call, and I know it's my ISP's problem. Every time I call, it's the ISP, so I'm calling them. Let your IT company call the ISP. Let your IT company call the third-party vendor. Don't do it yourself. If it's IT related, let them handle it.
It's their job.
Right. Okay. So,
and if you, and I bet you that this guy was paying hourly.
Right. But
and
it's
he's
still
an accountant. The accountants, their car doesn't stop on a dime. It doesn't just stop on the dime. It picks it up.
Yeah.
So they probably didn't call because they didn't want to spend the money on that. But then do the math. It's tax season. Mm-hmm. You're the accountant. It's like one time my accountant told me something, structure this part of your business this way legally. And I mentioned to my lawyer, this is what the accountant said. And the lawyer said, you tell your accountant, I promise not to do your accounting if they promise not to do your legal work.
Yes. But we have this a lot in IT because some of the things IT related are fairly easy to do. And people sometimes don't know where to draw the line with, I can do this and I shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, it was real easy in this case. It was real easy to cause a major problem. And when you hear what really was going on, it gets worse, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But he is like out front exactly what happened. Yeah. He couldn't be more honest.
Yeah. And so to throw up another thing here, and we'll get more into this, but never, ever, ever let anybody into your systems unless you absolutely know who they are. I don't care if they're Microsoft, the FBI, or whoever. Nobody, unless you know them, is to have remote access to your computers. Even if they're calling from your IT company, if you don't recognize the name of the person that is working there, do not do it. Don't let them in. Mm-hmm. I went to a client site the other day, which I rarely do. And this particular client is somebody I've never visited before. And I typically don't deal with them because my other business partner typically deals with them. So I get there. They don't know who I am. They've never seen me before. Now, granted, I do have a shirt on that has the name of the business. But, dude, I was given access to anything I wanted. Mm-hmm. No question at all. Like, who are you? Never seen you before. I know you're wearing the shirt, but... And there again, you have to trust but verify. All right. So anyway, don't let anybody in. And I'll give him extreme kudos for this. Once he realized something was wrong, he didn't just stop and go on about his business or call somebody and try to he unplugged everything immediately.
The only thing I would say is don't uninstall the software because that might have let us track things.
Yes.
Just unplug, turn it off. Let somebody that knows what they're doing look at it.
Yep. But completely disconnecting it from the internet, the network, and shutting it off, absolutely do it. Or even just unplugging it from the internet and the network, you can leave it on at that point. You just want to get it away from everything else. But I will say this, in that last line I read, he said, this entire interaction lasted less than 8 minutes. Dude, 8 minutes is like 40 years.
In computer time, yeah.
Yes. I mean, it takes seconds to do irreparable damage and puts all kind of things in your systems. 8 minutes is a lifetime.
Oh, yeah. There's so much that can be done, because we all know that when they do a breach, it's just a matter of a short amount of time for a lot of damage to get done, them to drop off back doors, exfiltrate data, be able to even pull some of your security settings and things depending on how they've gotten in and what they're using. I mean, who knows what the settings of that software he installed could have given them complete administrative control.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And these things can be done behind the scenes. So even if you said, well, I was watching him and I didn't see him do anything, at that point, it doesn't matter, because I mean, he can have back-end access where you don't even see what's happening.
Yeah, there's a program he launched, or he's got somebody else working while he's handling you, kind of like, hey, look over here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, watch this hand.
Watch this hand, because that's what you're watching. So, yeah, it was, but good for him that it was a red flag at least, and he did stop. And at that point, then he did our local computer technician, which, that worries me. I got a guy.
Yeah.
Because they're not, obviously, neither one, but anyway.
Yeah, but you can tell he was, as soon as he realized it, he went into, oh crap, and panic mode. You can just tell.
Yeah.
All right. So the letter goes on to say, or to read, our local computer technician was contacted immediately. And of course you brought that up. It doesn't really sound like an IT company, or maybe not somebody who's managing and monitoring their network and systems. So anyway, they indicated this was a known scam and that they tried to copy information that exists on the computer they are given access to, and to their knowledge are not able to move beyond the initial local hard drive quickly, if at all.
Okay, well, that's a pretty quick assessment.
Yeah. No, dude, if I'm given access to any machine on the network, I can move past it quickly.
Yeah, so there's a little concern in there. You don't know if that information came after they started looking into it, or if that's the initial response. Anyway, go ahead. Moving along.
So he says, questions, what information was involved? The information that was most at risk of being breached were those documents in the My Documents folder on my computer, as well as those saved on my computer. On my desktop, I kept a folder of items that had been emailed. If I emailed a copy of your tax returns or other document which contains your personal data, in the recent past, your data was most at risk of being compromised. We also discovered that older years of our tax program saved on my computer were not encrypted, which, okay, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
At this time, it is unknown what, if anything, was taken from my computer in the short amount of time that the breach occurred. Okay. So we'll stop right there and interject a few things. So first of all, the breach, it has already happened. So somebody's in the system and they're most likely they're already copying things like the My Documents folder and things like that. Those are happening pretty quickly. However, this is where you start getting, whether the IT company can do it or whether you have to bring in a third party company to do that, but you can do the forensics to figure out these things, if things were taken and what was taken. Right now, he's saying we don't know what was taken.
Yeah, this is where you have, John's talking about, you have a cyber policy so that you can bring in forensics and know what happened to your client data or patient data. And this is exactly why, with those ransomware attacks, OCR says you have to treat it as if it could be a breach, because you're making an assumption that they never, A, went past that computer, or B, downloaded anything.
Right. And this also speaks to some of the things that we do from a security standpoint. We're putting in all these things in place that I mean, you don't think they have a lot of value until something like this happens. And it gives you that insight that you need to prove if something happened or didn't happen.
Well, and to know it. I mean, this guy clearly cares about his clients.
Oh, yeah.
But he's not getting the kind of advice that he needs to be getting on how to handle this.
Right.
So, that's a whole layer of stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
And why was all that on his computer? That's what I want to know.
Well, this also brings to light, we talk about doing, your risk analysis or you can name it whatever you want, I don't care. But it does point out that until this happened, he says in here, we also discovered that older years of our tax program was saved to my computer. Why didn't you know it before now? And it's because you didn't look. Nobody ever said, let's take a look at where your data is and where it's going and where it's stored and all that.
Yeah, and I'm sure he would have told you there's none of his tax program stuff's on there.
Right. But it goes back to what we say all the time with your risk analysis is the whole point is to know where your data is so that you know how you're going to protect it. If you don't know where it's at, you can't protect it.
And if you don't know how it moves around, you can't protect it.
Exactly.
When we ask people about interfaces, they're like, well, we don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you don't know how it's moving around, how can you know it's protected?
Right.
Well, IT does that. As this guy's IT guy did.
Mm-hmm.
But, there's storing stuff on the desktop. He says they had a network server. I'm assuming that when he said they asked for access to our network server, I knew there was a problem. So there's a network server. Why are there things on his computer?
Yes, because, ultimately we want to try to keep as much of the data in one central location so that we're protecting it in one location versus all over the place.
And go ahead and make the point about it was not encrypted. Go ahead.
All right. So the encryption part, and we've talked about this in previous podcasts, but you have to understand that depending on how the encryption works, your data is probably not actually encrypted while the computer is on and in use. So if you're using what's called full disk encryption, that encryption is unlocked as you're using the computer, which is chances are that's what he's referring to. The data was not encrypted. You can encrypt the individual files. That is a thing, but most people don't know how to do that. It's not as complicated. They just don't know how to do it, or they don't have the software to do it, and therefore it's not being done anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing about encryption is encryption at rest is what they call it. I'm encrypting the disk, but if I'm actively using it, it's like I've opened the door to the storeroom.
Mm-hmm.
And now that door is just sitting open and anybody can go in there and get whatever they want because I've opened the door.
Right.
And I close the door and lock it. That's when the encryption kicks in.
Correct.
Thank you for agreeing with me.
It doesn't happen often, but.
But this is exactly our concerns when people make assumptions. You can see he still believes that if that had been encrypted, he'd be okay.
Right. And he still makes another point of it about the short amount of time.
Yeah.
There again, I'm not criticizing just as much as I'm pointing out the short amount of time is, give me 10 seconds. I can do as much damage as I need in 10 seconds. So short amount of time is not relevant.
Well, and he goes on in a little bit that makes it even more relevant,
mm-hmm.
that there's likely other things that were going on.
Yep.
With what he adds next. So
yep. So next he adds in his letter, "What are we doing?" ? The computer was immediately taken to our computer technician's shop for a virus check and cleaning. Okay, so now we're talking about a computer technician shop. So
yeah.
maybe not somebody who specializes in this kind of stuff.
Yeah, not a forensics person, not a data breach person, and doing everything wrong at that point. If you even wanted to bring in the forensics, it's gone. Any opportunity, the minute you handed it over to somebody that's gonna, we've talked about it, nuke and pave.
Yep. You got to protect the like the chain of custody of the system and the data and all of that, and having a computer company that has a shop that you have to take it to instead of them coming to you. It kind of tells me it was probably your average computer technician
Small town
company that, they work on some business stuff, some residential stuff or whatever. They're, again, not saying anything bad about it. It's just they don't specialize in handling this type of thing the way this needs to be handled. All right, so he goes on to say, I learned the next morning that the computer was infected with a sophisticated virus that could not be prevented by normal virus protection software.
That one I don't know. It doesn't say that it, when that virus got there. And more than likely, it could have been installed with that remote access stuff.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things here, and it can go either way. One is that there is no virus protection software that's 100%. Nothing's going to, always catch everything. However, one thing that, and I'm going to stretch here a little bit in saying this, but one thing could be that the computer technician shop was providing the antivirus, and since it didn't stop anything, they're saying, well, it couldn't have stopped it. So,
right.
It's not our fault.
There is that. That does happen.
Yeah, it's not our fault. And I get it, because sometimes people think, well, you sold me AV, it should block everything. Well, no, it's going to help. It's not going to block everything, which is why we have multiple layers of security on our client machines. We have different plans, depending on what they want. If they want just AV, that's fine. But for the ones that really take it seriously, we have anywhere from 4 to 6 layers of security on their systems, just because each layer does something a little bit different and protects you a little bit more. So that and very often, we see things get past the normal antivirus software, and it gets caught by either the second or the third layer of protection, which is just proof that your standard antivirus software that everybody thinks is actual security is not as effective as you think it is.
Yeah, I'm running 3 different kinds right now. Actually, probably 4. So yes, it is the case. And again, if you don't spend a lot of time with security, even your local computer guy may not know all those different things.
Oh, absolutely. So then it goes on to read, the hard drive was then replaced in order to prevent any risk of further infection. It is still unknown if any client information on our computer network was compromised. At this time, there's no indication of further infection involving our computer network. We are performing virus scans of all computers. Upgrading virus software is needed. Okay, so there's a telltale sign. Why are you upgrading virus software? Unless it needed to be upgraded.
Exactly.
In addition, we're changing physical controls, which includes storing more, if not all, of our client data in an encrypted form. I don't think they understand encryption. The majority of our client data has been migrated or has been maintained in encrypted form for some time. No. However, we are working to review all the data storage and ensure that everything possible is stored this way. In addition, we will no longer allow an outside technician to remotely access any computer on our network. Lastly, and most importantly, we are sending out this notification as quickly as possible to all those potentially affected.
Okay, so clearly the upgrading software, you're right, and they're probably installing patches to things.
Right, which means they probably were not being managed or monitored.
Right. And, we're the encryption thing, that's great if somebody breaks in their office and steals things.
Mm-hmm.
But it will not prevent what happened if somebody does get in. And that's the part that that makes me feel even more sad, because he's thinking that's helping.
Right. Yeah. And somebody's not, I don't think, explaining to him how the encryption piece works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
And it's not, we're not saying that the computer guy's bad or anything. They know what they know, and that's fine. It's just they also don't know what they don't know.
Right.
And, there's where the problems come in.
I mean, and I will say we are making somewhat of an assumption that they're not actually using file level encryption.
Right.
I would think it would be difficult to do file level encryption with this, but maybe not. I don't know. Just something to think about when you're talking encryption, as far as understand a little bit about how it works and what type of encryption you're actually using.
Well, based on all the other things we know about the technology, I'm feeling pretty certain.
Yeah. I'm trying to give him a little leeway.
Yeah, there you go. But again, they're not subject to HIPAA as far as we know. They don't do anything with PHI as far as we know. They're not subject to those requirements. But this is why we say all businesses need to do this. This is exactly why. Because the guy, he then goes in, he's dealing with all this in the middle of tax season.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can't imagine what this cost. I mean, he was thinking, I'm not going to call this computer guy for whatever reason, but let's assume that he didn't want to call the guy because it's going to cost a couple $100. Well, first of all, how much is he charging his clients, which he's not able to service now because he's dealing with this mess? There's, everything around this. Plus, he still has to get the IT people involved and pay them. And he's having to pay for upgrades and patching. And he's having to figure out what's going on. And he's having to replace a hard drive. And he's having to send out letters, deal with brand damage. I mean, just, oh my gosh, see how bad things can get so quickly when, the whole ounce of prevention.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I get it that people say, well, I don't want to spend hundreds of dollars a month for this IT management and monitoring and security. But dude, I mean, this one incident could have paid for a year of all that.
More, probably.
Right.
Because this guy, he's not charging a boatload of money if he's doing monitoring at all. So,
but then you don't know how many people are going to say, I'm not using this guy anymore.
Exactly, because because we're not having problems.
Right.
Then we don't need you. That's why you're not having problems. So, but he does go in, and of course, being the accounting guy and the numbers guy, he goes in and provides details, very specific details about how to get your credit reports and credit freezes, and goes into it way more than what anybody else does. Because now we're in his wheelhouse. Mm-hmm. So it is very accurate and specific, and which is better than what most letters do.
Right.
And he even is worried. He's so worried about it. He adds in this next little bit before the closing there, David.
So he writes in the last little bit of it, I recommend that you closely monitor your credit activity and financial records. Please notify me at once if there is any irregularity, so that I may assist you in taking corrective action and can notify other clients of the breach. I'm also so sorry this happened, and for any inconvenience and anxiety this may cause you and your loved ones. I appreciate the trust you put in me, and I will do everything possible to continue to warrant that trust. And I don't doubt the guy. Honestly, I don't think he said, screw it, I'm not going to protect this data. I just don't think he knew what to do effectively.
He didn't know the severity. He didn't understand we're in a cyber war.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
He truly had no idea that his computers live in a war zone.
Yeah, and he's probably like a lot of these businesses. He's like, I've been doing this for years and never had a problem.
Yeah. And it's different. Just in the last 2 years, it's become dramatically different.
Oh, absolutely.
It all started changing mid 2016.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
it changes so rapidly. And that's something I tell prospects and clients all the time, that the battlefield is changing constantly. You can't, if you looked at this a year ago, it's not even the same. We don't even use the same tools we used 2 years ago. It's so drastically different. And
you didn't use as many layers 2 years ago.
Oh, no, it wasn't a need to.
Right. So this story points out all of those things, but as a covered entity, business associate, think about this. What if this was your accountant?
Yeah.
That clearly they care, and you assume they care, and they're in a small town, and, they probably are very trustworthy people.
Mm-hmm.
By all indications, it was somebody I could probably trust to do my taxes. I don't know them, but based on what we're reading, they're very, very trustworthy, it seems.
Yeah.
What if this were your accountant?
They're good at taxes. They're just not good at IT.
Right. Yeah. So don't have them do your legal work. But what if you gave them PHI as part of doing business with them? And this is how you found out that even though they signed the BAA, they didn't really understand what they were supposed to be doing, because we know tons of business associates said, reference, top 10 wrong
mm-hmm.
statements. And, what if you didn't even give them PHI, right? You didn't. But now they've got enough information about your business that now is out in the wild or you don't know about it. So now your likelihood of being targeted, because they use that information to know who to go after. Hey, you've got money. Let me do a targeted ransomware attack. You're in healthcare. You've got even more data. Let me do a targeted ransomware attack along with an exfiltration plan.
Yeah. And the fact that he got hit once, whether they got anything or not, makes him a target for it to happen again.
Yeah. They know you. They will find you.
You went on the list.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
So that brings us to our second story.
This was a little bit more entertaining.
Yeah. So this is a third-party breach that was exposed by automation.
That's right. You were automatically told they had a breach.
Oh, my goodness. This is funny.
Yeah, well, and this was sent to me by a friend of mine who is actually interviewed in the article and all of those kind of things. And the email came and all it said was "ugh" with a link. So thanks, Bonnie. That was awesome. But this again is, she is she has a background in marketing that specializes in working with CPA firms.
Okay.
Which this coming in and seeing the other one at the same time, it really did kind of bring it all together for me that this is why we're talking about it. But, it's the same big group kind of thing. She works for CPA Consultants Alliance, or she's a member of that. And it's like an organization that, they're trying to put together all of these different tools to advise CPA firms. And unfortunately, technology is one of them, marketing, business development. And she's in the marketing piece. But they were all in their annual meeting, sitting in their meeting when they learned that somebody had hacked their website and posted blog posts that touted marijuana and products made from CBD, the cannabis oil that everybody talks about, how it can cure all these things, which, we're not going to get into marijuana legalization, but it should happen. But anyway, the CPA Consultants Alliance, when their website was hacked and these fake blog posts were added, and they should be thankful that that's all it was.
Yeah.
That it wasn't redirecting you to some darknet drug sites or any litany of things that they were able to get in and do these blog posts. It could have been way worse.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, they have automation, and we have similar automation in place. But again, we have layers of security, and we discussed security of our websites today. I just want to tell you that we had that discussion before we had this thing. But the fake blog posts go out there, and then they have this automation that wakes up periodically, looks for blog posts, and automatically sends those blog posts out in a newsletter to all of their contacts.
Sounds good.
It was great. It worked great. It even worked this day. And so they had posted, and it's just that freak event kind of thing that the hacker gets in, does the post on one day. The very next day, the newsletter goes out.
And great timing.
Yeah. Well, everybody's busy looking at something else. Which is what my point of don't let a chicken cause a data breach was. You're busy worried about ICD-10 while somebody else is doing this. They actually were, and I doubt it was a targeted kind of thing, but they were sitting there and everybody gets the newsletter in their email all at the same time. Wow. Can you imagine that?
No.
I mean, no. Can you imagine us just hanging out and all of a sudden we get an email from Help Me with HIPAA that's talking about anything other than what we posted?
Well, the cool thing is everybody's together to freak out together.
I know, right? We can all freak out together. That is one of the rules. So they had, this very active blog, and I mean, it's set up, very similar to the way we do things.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a timing thing, which, maybe they're set to go out on Wednesdays And if it had happened the previous Thursday, someone would have noticed it because they would have been referencing that for some reason. But they just had not seen it before that little thing ran on Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a very cool automation until something goes horribly awry.
It is.
But you know, can you see them? They're all like, yeah, I'm sure their click rate went way up because somebody went, what the?
Yeah, what is this?
why are they sending me this? And their click rate's going to go way up. So you hope it was just clickbait, not anything bad. And so they immediately, dropped what they were doing in their national meeting and, removed all of the posts and made sure that even if somebody did click, it wouldn't take them to more stuff. And, that was good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But what does this make us, we should all be thinking about?
Well, for me, this outlines or underlines the need to protect and secure the website, which I think gets overlooked a lot. You have somebody build your site or you build your own site, on one of these free platforms, and then you don't think about the security of it. You don't think about doing backups or what the security even looks like. And people are notorious about throwing free plugins out there, and some of them do a decent job, but just like security with anything else, you get what you pay for. And a lot of times you don't know what you're doing well enough to set these things up properly anyway.
Well, or you even hire the people that are web designers and you never ask them how they secure it.
Right. Because they're not considering security. They're kind of like the software guys. They just want the software to work. They're not concerned with your security. And kind of the same thing. Look, I'm building you a website and I'm building it based on what you want. You didn't say anything about security. I don't care about security.
Right. It's like, well, it's just the website. It's just information. I don't have to worry about security. There's no PHI. There's nothing valuable out there. You know what's out there? Your reputation. That's your shingle. And you're saying, I don't care if somebody takes it down, moves it somewhere else, points people to a different doorway, or puts graffiti all over it saying how evil all of you are.
Oh, yeah. And another thing about website hosting is, for the most part, it is so cheap that people kind of put a stake in the ground. They're like, well, I only pay, $5 a month or $9 a month for hosting, and then when you start looking at, putting backup and security, you're going to end up paying $40, $50 a month to host a website, sometimes even more. And then they're like, well, I'm not doing that, because they have this mental anchor of $9.
Yeah, it's just that this should be cheap. In the world we live in, technology is a tool for criminals and cyber war activists, or whatever you want to call it. We're in a cyber war. It doesn't matter what you're posting out there or what you've put out there. You need to worry about how it's secured. And I'm paranoid about all of that, but, people pay me to be paranoid. That's my job.
That's right.
So what I'm saying here is, what if this was a consultant that worked for you to market to your patients, or this is the one that you really want to think about. What if this was a group that marketed to your referring providers?
Ooh, yeah.
What if they started sending, you hand out your mailing list to XYZ, and I'm not giving them PHI. I don't have to worry about the security. And now you're going to have it automatically send to all of your referring providers how much you believe in cannabis oil. Okay. See how that works in your community.
Yeah.
Would that impact your reputation at all?
Yeah. And cannabis oil was mild compared to what it could have been. It could have been really bad.
Yeah. What if if it happened and you're with all the folks that got your hacked information? What if their meeting hadn't been with each other, but it had been with all of their contacts? And not only do they look down and look at each other and see what happened, but all the people that they're talking to see what happened.
Yeah. Or what if they put something illegal on your site, like child pornography?
Oh, God. Oh.
And started sending all that out. I mean, whew.
Yeah. Well, and there was and when I was a kid, there was this. It's a long story, but anyway, there was this article called "Boy Was My Face Red." It was every time an issue of a magazine came out, boy, was my face red. And it would always talk about embarrassing situations. And the minute I read that and then started thinking about what if it had been all of those, I was like, wow, boy, was your face red.
Mm-hmm.
You know, right away that leapt back into my train of thought. So if your website gets hacked and someone starts making blog posts on your site and then you're not paying attention because nobody looks at your own website, and it takes days, weeks, or even months. And by the way, once it's indexed, it's out there.
Yep.
You got the Wayback Machine, you got all this other stuff. There's copies of old data even after you delete it. You have to go and ask for it to be removed from all these indexes.
Yeah. And just there again, you have to put your website as part of your risk analysis and look at that. And how are you backing it up and securing it? And what are you going to do if something happens? I mean, at least with my website, and yours is probably the same way, but anytime anybody logs in, I get an email. So I know if anybody's in there doing anything to the website. Mm-hmm. And there again, it's just another layer of security so that I know something's going on and I can, hopefully more quickly address things should they get past the security measures in place.
Oh yeah, I get these emails that'll tell me something's happening out on the website, and I'll send something over to Krista. I'm assuming this is you. If not, shut everything down right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But there you have it. I'm glad we picked 2 instead of 3, David, because
we would have made it.
We would have made it. Okay.
All right. Well, that's our show for today, folks. I swear it seems like we're getting more and more like we're doing the scary episodes every week. Anyways, make sure you share this out on your favorite social media site, rate us on our podcasting app, and keep spreading the word. We very much appreciate it. And as always, you can send your questions and ideas in to us. And don't forget that HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.